Oh, hey everybody! As I announced yesterday in my stories, I went live on Facebook to talk about the research paper that I recently came across, and this is what I had to say about it. I just had to redo the introduction, and I still love this filter. So here it comes. Today's topic, as I announced yesterday, is I wanted to talk to you about a research paper that was recently published. Certainly was published this year in June, and it was really good because it's one of the few research papers with regards to fitness and weight loss that specifically addresses women's issues. Not many of them do. The majority of the research is being carried out on young, privileged, white, fit men. So doesn't really translate very well for women, and especially women of a certain age like me, and like probably a lot of you, some of you watching. So this actually was carried out on a very small group of people, so the findings may not be are quite exciting, are very exciting in fact, but it's not clear how they would apply to older women. But what they did, they wanted to look at the effects of intermittent fasting in conjunction with high intensity interval training, your HIIT workouts, and see if that made any difference to how the body composition of women. So they took a small group of women, 14 in total, so really not a great way of representing the female population, but nevertheless. And these women were in sort of between the mid-20s to the early 30s, so very young women, fit, healthy, and they were split into two groups, and two groups of 7 people each, and each group took part in two lots of experimental workouts, kind of thing. So all these women, so they did the first 8 weeks being in one group and the second 8 weeks being in another group, in the other group. So, and in between there were periods of rest. So what they did, they all followed the exact same diet, except adapted to their own individual metabolic needs. They followed the exact same workouts, exact same lifestyle for the duration of the experiment. The only thing that was different is that one of the groups was doing intermittent fasting as well as the workouts. So they did 3 HIIT workouts, which last about 40 minutes each, 3 times a week they did that, and they were mostly cardio-based. And they measured parameters to see what the difference between the two things was. So the only thing that was different between the two groups was the fact that one group did intermittent fasting and the other one didn't. So what they measured were things like strength, so grip strength. They used that as an indicator of whether the strength got better or not. They measured jumping, so see how much higher they could jump after the experimental time, the 8 weeks. And then they measure other things, anaerobic capacity and other things. So and obviously the body fat, the body composition. So what it transpired after the end of the 8 weeks, the end of the experiment, so each group had 8 weeks of intermittent fasting and 8 weeks of not intermittent fasting, is that when the women did the intermittent fasting, they lost a lot of fat, like probably around about 1% of body fat, mostly coming from visceral fat, which is good. Is the stuff that grows on top of your internal organs and that gives you a pot belly. So they lost that. They lost fat pretty much all over, but mostly around their waist. They got stronger, and they were able to jump a little bit higher. And that was the only thing that was different, was the amount of time that they were allowed to eat during the day. So they had exact same food as everyone else, but those who were only eating it within a sort of 6 to 8 hour window lost more weight, lost more fat, rather than they got stronger and fitter. And they measured the calorie consumption, the women who did intermittent fasting actually naturally consumed between 10 and 20% less calories than the other group, just purely because they didn't feel the need to eat anymore, so they consumed a lot less food, hence the fat loss. And then take into account that fasting helps with bring your metabolism back into balance and reset your stress hormones, as well as improve your insulin, the metabolism of insulin. So all these things brought together kind of demonstrate that even in a very small group, that intermittent fasting could be a simple change to somebody's routine that's going to bring big rewards. Because if you think 1% of body fat is not a great deal, it's probably, on an average person, it could probably be almost 1 kilo of body fat, 800 grams, depending how much you weigh, 700, just over half a kilo, like a big tub of margarine. If you can imagine all that shrinking coming off your body, you're gonna shrink a lot. It's really quite good. The only problem is, obviously, it was done on younger women, so there is no data regarding older women, how that would affect women as they're going through the perimenopause and the menopause. But they've also found that if the same strategy is used for young male athletes, all these changes happen in the space of 4 weeks. And when they repeated a similar experiment on women over the age of 60, it took them 6 weeks instead of 8, and they got bigger results. And that's not surprising, because when women become postmenopausal, then their hormonal makeup is more similar to that of a man, so that's why the results are comparable. But it's really interesting, because when you think about it, when you struggle to lose weight, especially weight around the belly, because that's one of the hardest things for women to lose, you could start without going into something extremely complicated. Just have your first meal as soon as you wake up, and then have your last meal 8 hours after that, and then don't eat again until the next morning. And gradually get used to doing that, and that simple change might be the one thing that makes a huge difference to you and your ability to lose the belly fat. And not only that, you could, obviously, your intermittent fasting, it works more in harmony with your circadian rhythm. So, and that in turn also promotes fat burning. So it's a very encouraging little bit of research, and rather exciting, because obviously you don't need to do anything fancy, you don't have to do crazy workouts. Although, having said that, the workouts they use for the experiment were cardio-based workouts, and I have something to say about that. I mean, I'm not convinced that they will not work. I'm certain that those will not work for women going through perimenopause and the menopause, because it's like really intense cardio workouts. There wasn't any weightlifting involved that was mentioned by the study. So had there been, that would have been definitely beneficial for all the women. For women going through midlife, would have been more beneficial than just doing the cardio. But then again, everyone is different, so some people would benefit from just doing the cardio. Although it seemed rather brutal, because you have to do it at 85% of your maximum effort. So, and they did three lots. So they did 1 lot of running, 1 lot of cycling, 1 lot of rowing within the space of 40 minutes with like absolute rest in between. So it's a brutal workout. It probably come and bite you in the arse if you do it. If you're going through midlife and you do something like that, you have to be careful. You have to see what works for you, as always. But again, one last time, the takeaway from here is that just by changing the timing of when you eat, by condensing that time to bringing it down to like 6 to 8 hours, a 6 to 8 hour window during the day, you can get massive fat loss results, and you don't have to change anything else. But you need to be active, and you need to eat for fat loss. You can't eat all sorts of crap in between. You still have to go through follow a certain nutrition style that favors fat loss, but it makes life so much easier knowing this, that again, it simplifies a lot of things. So if you want to see the research paper, let me know, and I'll put the link in the comments. And this is the kind of thing that I will be working on when I open the doors for the TOTT Lounge. So there will be a link in the comments immediately as soon as I finish this, to where you can go and join the waiting list. Do check it out on the landing page, because it explains everything as to what it is. I will do that perhaps next week. I'll come on live one evening and tell you all about it. But this is the kind of thing that we're going to be learning and doing it in the TOTT Lounge. Nice and easy, taking it easy, addressing health issues. Fasting is great for a lot of health issues. It just really is brilliant. And yeah, so if you wanna check it out, go and do it, and just join the waiting list. And the reason that there being a waiting list is that so we get to know each other before we commit to working with each other. And yeah, so we can play with this when we join in we can experiment as well. We can run our own experiments with conditions and everything. So do check it out. And apart from Gillian, who is here live, everyone else, thank you for watching the replay, and I'll catch you again very soon.